Hey guys, we're back. I got another victim, another buddy I've been with a long time. Welcome, T.A. Mahoney, Tales from the Dark Side. Don't ever let the truth get in the way of a good story. All right, I told everybody I'm trying to bring some friends in that I've done a lot of stuff with, kind of help me along through fishing, learning stuff, learning how to do different things, and I'm probably going back pushing, got to be 30 years, huh?
Probably, yes.
Casey, it's Casey King. He's from Tampa. Tell us a little bit about yourself. How long you been here?
I've been here my whole life. Born and raised here in Tampa, and I live up in Wesley Chapel. Got a couple kids and living the dream.
Yep. And how'd we meet?
I believe I met you the first time here in the store when it was downtown.
Yep.
You've been fishing with us many a times, hunting. Probably met you when I was around 20.
Yep. I remember that well. I met Kevin and Darren and yourself all about the same time. Kevin Crofton, Darren Crofton. And they were big into kingfish. And I was thinking about that today, knowing that you were going to be coming in and we were going to have this podcast, and thinking about how much I learned on that kingfish trail. You know, nowadays, when you think of kingfish, I personally, first person comes in my mind is Jim Nassett. Pro Marine, fast boat, lots of fuel, can go wherever he wants. When we started fishing together, y'all had asked me, and I think what had happened is we'd started fishing together offshore, inshore, kind of doing different things. And then about once a month was at SKA. Y'all were in the pro circuit. And I believe at the time you had a 28. It might have been a 25.
Yes.
When I first started, and this is going back probably 25, 30 years in the SKA, and you guys were like one of the teams to beat, but it was so much different back then. I remember when the team Hydrosport, y'all's team that I was on, got that 28, that was like one of the biggest boats in the tournament circuit.
Very true. They didn't make them very big back then. I think we had a 25, went to a 28, went to a 30. Obviously, it took a few years as they started building them. Great times, great memories.
You know, one of the best times, and I think what Hydrosport had going for them, I remember back in the day, was Alex, of course, and lots and lots of input on the new designs when they were coming out. So I remember other boat companies had 30-footers.
Right.
And Hydrosport hadn't had one yet. And I remember talking to Alex all the time. He was part of the team, and there was quite a few. It was pretty impressive to be on that team. I was really blessed to be asked to be an alternate. What had happened was, I think that those guys kind of liked the big tournaments in different areas, and there was a couple tournaments that weren't as kind of flashy, like Fourchon, Louisiana was my first tournament I'd gone to. Some of the team couldn't get off, or maybe they had other stuff going on. It seemed like it was about this time of year. And of course, that's when I first went over. Y'all introduced me to Louisiana, and it was probably, you know, the beginning of that, which is unreal.
Unfortunately, I didn't make that trip. I think that was just you, Kevin, and
me and Kevin. Yeah,
and,
you were one of the ones that was off, I think.
Right,
yeah.
And that was one of the better trips that you got to go to. I had been to Louisiana one other time. It was probably the first time I'd been there, but probably I regret missing it, but just probably the best fishing I'd ever done in my life.
Oh, for sure.
And never missed another trip.
Yeah, that was, I remember that well, because Fourchon is on the west side, and it was quite a bit of a drive over there. You know, Venice is probably somewhere in the neighborhood of, I think around 11 hours.
I was going to say
give or take, you know.
13 with flat tires, so.
Yeah, towing boats, it's a little bit more, but driving, yeah, it's and we've made that run a bunch of times. What the best thing was when we went over to Venice. I remember the following year, and you were there then, and we pulled into Venice Marina, and I remember in the bait store there. If anybody's been there really since Katrina, they've really put a lot into it. Back before Katrina, it was just a single story on stilt bait house instead of having two of them there.
Yeah, very very little homes or.
Yeah, there was really nothing. I remember the first tournament, I think we had to sleep two in each bed, you know.
Yeah, it was
Venice Motel.
nothing, but that was when the ballets owned it.
Yeah.
Great people. Probably, again, like I said, it's probably the best fishing I'd ever done. When the first time we'd ever been there, had great hospitality, but they showed us a good time. And usually every time we'd go to Venice, we would normally try and go for 2 weeks. We'd go for a week before the tournament and then pre-fish for a week, but it was always good to go out there and fun fish.
Yeah, you'd crush them. I mean, I went with y'all, like I said, that first time, and when I pulled up into that marina and looked up in the window and saw an SKS with a banana clip in it, I knew it was the place for me. I promise you that, and it is shown true to that.
Oh, yes.
I mean, I love that place. I know the people, the ownership has changed. We didn't really know a lot about the Mississippi and a National Wildlife Refuge at the time, and I do remember the first time we went, I brought a buddy of mine with me that just so happened to bring a firearm with him, you know. We didn't know you weren't supposed to have firearms on the boat and you're in the National Wildlife Refuge. We were there to have fun. We were in our late 20s, you were in your early 20s, and had a boat full of gas and a gun with 1,000 rounds. I mean, we went out there, we were shooting cobia. You catch cobia, forget, you know, they always come to the boat, right? You remember that? We shot a 70-pounder.
Oh, yeah.
He comes up to the boat to check it out. Pow! One shot to the head, he's done. In the boat, there's your meat. Go on to the next one.
Yes.
And we never even thought of nothing. Like, we had people walking out of the rigs looking at us.
Yeah.
Like, what are they doing down there? And we're just firing away. There ain't nobody out here. This is great. Catching fish and shooting guns. So we came into the mouth of the river. You remember that?
Oh, I remember it distinctly.
And we said, hey, there's some stuff out there moving. Maybe we should shoot it. You know, I think, was it a coyote or a raccoon or?
I'm not sure what the first thing we saw, but it ended up being a raccoon that I believe Ernie spotted him.
Yeah. Oh, Ernie, Eagle Eye Ernie saw the wildlife. We had shot at raccoons and coyotes. We probably shot 40 rounds out of that boat, and all the shells were laying in the deck of the boat. You know, we just, yeah, they're gone, let's go. You know, I don't even think we hit them or something, but we were out there, all of us were taking turns just lighting the water up, and we're not thinking this is wrong. This has got to be okay. We're in Louisiana.
We're out in the middle of God's country, out in the middle of nowhere.
That was funny. We got back to the dock. What happened?
I do believe it was Tiger Pass we came in, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Well, we pulled up, I remember, and we were unloading fish at the fish cleaning table, and a guy from Louisiana goes, wow, what'd you gaff that cobia with?
Yes, I do remember.
And then,
that.
of course, Ernie says, oh, we gaffed him with a Mini 30. And the guy goes, a Mini 30? What's that? And he says, little ranch rifle. He says, oh, really? You know you're in a National Wildlife Refuge? You're not allowed to have a rifle on the boat. Well, about that time, me and Casey go down to the deck, and we're throwing shells. Oh, yeah, we know that. We didn't do that, and kept throwing the shells in the water. But close one there.
Yeah, very close. Also, I remember, I can't remember your dad's friend, but I think that was the trip that, I think it was the next year we went with Bass Smith came out.
Yeah. It's probably a few years, because my dad going there was probably 10 or 12 years of the 18 I've been there. So
I can't remember your dad's friend, his name.
That he came with? I don't remember.
No, we
that.
took him. Your dad wasn't there. We took him. Is when we got pulled over by the Coast Guard.
Oh, you're talking about Charles.
Charles.
Yeah, that wasn't good.
That was a big ordeal, and
Boy, that'd be blown up right now, I'll tell you that. That was kind of an uneven deal there, and it was that worked out good. We had a guy on the boat from Tampa. We had people on the boat from
Tampa,
Alabama, Tampa, and for some reason they didn't like my buddy, and they walked past everybody and got right up to him and said, "We need to see your license." And he said, "I'm a disabled military veteran. I've got a card that says that. I've got a license given to me in every state because of that. It says it on the back of this card." And I distinctly remember the guy saying, "That's everywhere but Louisiana.
Yes, I remember that.
I'm writing you a ticket. I'm detaining you." So I, in a panic, thank goodness just so happens I had 5 lawyers there that were on a trip I'd referred. It was like the dream team. I forget who they all were, but they were all big, powerful guys from Tampa that wanted to go tuna fishing. So they went the same time I did. I set everything up and got them the trip. So I drove back over to the marina and I said, "Hey guys, I need some help." They said, "What you got, Mike?" I said, "One of my buddies is over there and they're giving them a hard time." They jumped in the Suburban and off the dream team went, and actually they got out, and there was some pretty quick responses to what they finally ended up saying, which I thought was kind of a little bit off, was that, "Hey, this is what we're going to do, guys. You're going to give me 2 fish and 2 fishing rods. That's the penalty for him not having a license."
Yeah.
And I remember your brother Kevin reached in there and got the nastiest sabiki rods. See, they were looking at gold reels and electric reels all around the boat, and they thought they were going to get some of those.
Yep.
We reach in there, give them 2 sabiki rods and 2 of the smallest fish, and off we went.
Yes.
And my buddy got a ticket. And this is how things worked back then.
Yes.
We got the ticket. We give it to the guy at the marina. The ticket went away. No ticket. So I don't make any waves there. I love the place. It's changed a lot. But that was back. It was almost like you went back in time.
For sure.
25 years ago, 20 years ago when you were down there. And it still isn't that much more developed. When you get into the marina, it's a lot different. But the area going in is all about the same. And,
Yeah.
and really, that whole kingfish circuit, learning so much about fishing with you guys. At one time, I wasn't on the team, or I wasn't there when it happened, but Darren had the all-time SKA record.
An Alabama state record.
Alabama state record, won a truck. Were you on the boat when they caught that one?
Was not there on that one.
I think Pork Chop, Robin Dawson was there.
Robin Dawson.
As a matter of fact, that was his last trip.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think a 3-foot shark ended that.
Yeah.
But I think it was 66 and a half.
Yeah, 66.5 pound kingfish. And you remember what year that was?
I do not remember.
Had to be early 2000s.
But I think I remember either somebody tied it or they broke it.
Yeah, since then.
Yes.
Absolutely. I think Jim Nassett has actually got the record now, but I don't know that that's SKA. I know that them guys and Ernie and all them guys have weighed some monster fish here in the last couple of years.
There's no question when you went to Venice, you culled 50-pounders.
Yeah.
And you don't do that many places.
Right.
Truly, again, the best.
Yeah.
Been a lot of places fishing, but there's nothing better than Venice.
Well, and that's really what's opened me up to so many different areas. You were at the Hog's Breath in Key West when we came in second, right?
Yes.
We're in Key West, 8-foot seas, awesome tournament. It was one of them deals where, as a crew member, when they wake you up at 4 in the morning and the palm trees are sideways, you're praying that they're going to cancel the tournament. And they didn't cancel tournaments back then.
No.
It was like, we're going. So we went out there, and me and Kevin were on the back deck. You might have been putting a flat line out or a kite or something. We were on the downriggers. As soon as we got them set, both of them, double. Had to be 6:37 in the morning. I mean, first hit. Well, at that time, that was probably my biggest kingfish. We caught a 35 pounder. Well, they stick this kingfish and throw it in the cooler, not even in the kingfish bag. And I'm like, man, that's a 35 pounder. Well, Kevin looks at me and goes, mine's still pulling drag. Well, they hit at the same time, same rods and reels, same drags, and his is still pulling drag. Mine's in the box. What was that, 52 pounds?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, we came in second. And I'll tell you, being with these guys and being in those tournaments, one of the best feelings ever. No matter how beat up you are, is the introduction that you used to get. And I remember that in Key West when they went up there to weigh the fish, that they introduced you as the biggest, team that's caught the biggest fish. Hog Heaven was the name of the boat. And man, I can tell you, I've learned a ton from you guys. Kingfishing is just, the light line and bringing that same info back here, it's just been incredible. And I thank you for getting me over there in Louisiana. That's what brought me there this year, was my first trips up there.
Well, you brought up a good point about one of the things that I learned from lots of people from Texas to the Carolinas, some of the better fishermen that we ever knew. One of the biggest secrets that a lot of people don't do now is, as you're running out to your spot and you're getting ready, you're half a mile away from your spot and where you want to go, and you got bait and you're all ready to go. But one of the best things to do is, as a boat's on a plane, you're coming in, you go ahead and hook up a bait, and as the boat's coming off of a plane, you go ahead and rip that bait out.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to it. I think that fish hear the boat, they know what's going on, they come up to investigate, and you already got two boats out and you're still going 20 mile an hour, and you just set the rods, either hold the rod or put it in there. But I can't tell you how many times that we've done that. And
as soon as it drops,
and as soon as it drops and the boat comes off of a plane, you got a fish on.
Well, and that's real interesting, because in Louisiana this year and the last few years, with all the people really pounding those fish, there's a lot of boats out there that are fishing for them. I've heard different stories where they rev the motor up in neutral to blow that prop wash and exhaust out of there, and then they'll throw a handful of chummers in that wash, and that forces them fish up. This year, all they were doing, none of that. They would put about a third of a 5-gallon bucket with water in it, and we were actually using pumpkin seeds, which I've never used before for any kind of fish. Usually that's that real shiny one. It kind of looks like a skipjack,
right,
but he has a bigger belly. They'd throw about 3 of those in there with a gallon of water, and they would throw it out where that water would hit and make white water with those baits flashing, then throw the bait right behind it. And
Yeah.
It was almost instant.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to that, what you're saying, when you go to back off. And, one of the things we had was a pretty good team that worked together well. Clearing lines, gaffing fish, getting stuff ready. You knew kind of your position, which I appreciated being on the team. Sometimes when you get a crew together to go fish a tournament, you don't really know what that person's like. You got to have, there's a lot of stuff. You got to have humility. You're going to get yelled at. You're going to, there's all kinds of stuff that's going to happen that you got to know what to do and change from. If you're soft-hearted or sensitive, you don't want to be on that boat.
No.
And nobody means nothing by it. It's about money. And anybody that's been fishing knows that's what you get into it for. It's not necessarily you're going to win a bunch, but it's being up there and competing.
Right.
And it's like with any sport.
Absolutely.
If you're going to go into it sloppy, don't expect to win.
No.
Fun fish, which we've done plenty of times. We've gone out there and caught our share, but when it was time to catch the fish, it was time to catch fish. And, hydro sport, fishing with them, I was probably with y'all about 4, 5, 6 years.
Yeah.
Kind of fill in when I needed to, different areas. I've had some great times. Fished with all you guys, your dad and Kevin and Darren, and just caught some awesome fish and just learned a ton.
Yes.
The thing I can tell you I've learned the most about your family and your team when I fished with them is you didn't go without parts.
No.
Your dad's dually, you popped the back, it was T.A. Mahoney Company downsize. Well, you need a downrigger base. I've got 2. You know, I remember going in there in Fushan. I put control cables in a boat during a tournament. We did that in Venice. Had a shifter problem or something, had to swap stuff out. And I'll tell you what, that dually had to have 8,000 square foot of merchandise inside of it, but we didn't go without. Evan Rude was a great supporter. We had engineers on the boat when they first come out with the Fick motors, which
Yes.
we all realized those were a mistake. But
A lot of credit goes to Alex Leva on that one.
absolutely, Alex.
Alex is probably top-notch guy you'd ever want to meet, and
Yep.
Alex put a lot of time into it, and he got us all the support. But we were, of all the teams, from Donzie to Fountain, Hydrosport had a mechanic that went to all pro tournaments, but
That's right.
most of the local tournaments we had support, and I've changed we've changed power heads underneath oak trees on pulleys.
Yep.
We've done
Lower
lower units.
lower units, props.
it's
Key West was an injector. The Ficht just came out.
Right.
We had an injector go out. The engineer's on the boat. He sticks it on the computer. I got one right here. They put the injector in, and we are good to go.
uh,
Great support. And
And-
like you said, Alex was a man. When you needed something, all you had to do was ask him for it. If it helped with fishing and that team, he was the guy.
Alex deserves a lot of credit.
Yeah, he does.
He did a lot of great things for Hydrosport, and I'm sure he does a lot of great things for Blue Wave. So
Yeah. I get to see him in here once in a while. I see him on social media. He's you can't expect a guy like that to sit still.
no,
He's retired from Hydrosport, and he's as busy as he's ever been, but he looks happy. So,
yeah.
Alex, a shout out to you, buddy. And
Alex
man, we had some
Alex does what he likes to do. He does what he loves. So that's and
customer service is top notch with that guy. I mean, he's helped me out throughout whatever I've ever needed, and I've sold some boats for him, and he definitely appreciated it. Those 33s when they came out were incredible because Alex really went with every team asking them about the 28s and what they would like to have different, and that's actually how they built that boat.
right.
I got in one of the first ones. I fished in a tournament with him and Jim Ladner for an upfish to fish in some top 25 thing, and I'd caught a 40-pounder in the Skyway Channel, which is real common there by Fort DeSoto. So him and Jim said, hey, you want to jump on the boat with us, riding this new 33, and we're trying to up our fish and where we can get in the finals. So I went with them out there, and the only thing I could find on the boat, there was a hatch on the front. And if you walked your foot all the way up to the very front of the boat, there was a hatch there. And if you were wearing a certain flip-flop, your toe would hit it. And I'm telling you, 33 foot of boat, that's the only thing I could find wrong with this boat. You could run wide open in 4-foot seas with the live well lid open. You never got wet. I mean, it was one of the best boats I've ever been in to fish, still to this day. May not be the fastest, but man, you were safe in it.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
And for the record, Jim Laudner might have had the fastest boat 30 years ago.
Yeah.
He had a 25, and I've never seen a 25 go as fast as Jim's. He'd probably beat everybody.
Well, Jim he'll put 150 motor covers on 275 V8s. That's Jim Ladner for you, and saying, I'm running the same motors you are. Well, hey, Casey, it's been great on this one. We're going to have a break right now. We're coming up to a little pause in the action, and we'll be right back. And we're back. T.A. Mahoney, Tales from the Dark Side. Don't believe it all. I'm here with Casey King, a real good friend of mine. We're talking fishing, SKA, Pro Division, a lot of good stuff back in those days. I want to touch on this part, Casey, a little bit about hunting. There's a couple things that stand out, that as far as my hunting and what I've done. And really, y'all were a big part of my fishing and learning more, and also a big part of my hunting and learning more. One of the things I learned, which was a true asset off the bat, was if you can afford not to go onto public land, don't. Not that it's not good. It's just learning it and dealing with people that you don't know. You're kind of a little better off getting involved in a lease. And it was kind of like me telling Casey, you're better off, or somebody else, you're better off buying that lure because I got it in stock. Well, they just so happened to have a lease that had an extra room for me. So that's the way I went. And man, had a great time with all the stuff we've done. I remember one of the first places, I think the first place was up there in, was it Hilliard, right?
Yeah, Callahan.
And how many acres did we have there, Casey?
I can't remember. I think it was about 3,000.
Well, and I'd never really shot a deer.
No.
When I got on with them, and of course they told me we're going to help you out, and you know, I had a bunch of different funny stuff happen to me. I was there, if you remember, black powder. And I didn't know how to load a black powder gun, so one of the guys there that got the fillet knife pulled on him at the table, he loaded it for me. He loaded it for me, right? So all I got to do, this thing sitting over here loaded, is just turn the safety off and shoot this deer. Well, I'd never really been hunting before, so to me, sitting 2 hours in a stand was a long time. You know, it's funny, today I'll sit 10, no problem. You know, I'm comfortable, but back then it was just, seemed like the routine was sit a few hours in the morning, get something to eat, go back out in the afternoon. So I'm getting down out of the stand, I look up in the field, and out of the middle of nowhere, beautiful buck. I mean, nice buck. So I put it on him, he's walking, I'm kneeling down, I'm trying to be still, click. He kind of looks at me and trots off. I'm thinking, man, the gun didn't fire, you know, so I, you know, responsible. I leave the barrel down, get back to the camp, and tell them, hey, that gun's outside, barrel down. It didn't shoot, and I pulled the trigger. Well, Kevin had knew what happened. You know, if you don't put that blasting cap, and a lot of y'all may know this, I didn't. If you don't put it on good and tight, when you fire it, it actually doesn't shoot. It pushes it where it should be, and the second time you fire, it will go off. So I said to Kevin, I don't want to touch it. So Kevin walked out there, grabbed it, aimed it at the ground safely, boom, and it fired. So it kind of taught me a lesson there. But one of the funny things I remember about that place is I just bought a new dually, and that was 2001.
I think it had 500 miles, I think.
Yeah, wasn't quite the break-in yet. And you can see the smile on his face when I start to talk about it, because when somebody gets a new truck, it's like, oh, it's time to ride in yours. We're going into the woods with your truck because it's brand new. And me and Casey go in the woods, like you said. It was, what'd you say it was, 6,000 acres, I think?
I think it was 3,000.
3,000.
I think the total place was 6,000. We had the 3,000 on one side, and the other group had 3,000.
3,000. So we're out there driving around, and there's this narrow little path that kind of wiggles its way back through the woods. You really can't see how far it goes, and Casey's wanting to show me the place, so, and we're in my truck, so he don't care. He's like, oh, just turn right here. So I get down there a little bit, and I'm kind of looking in the rearview mirror, and I go, you know, if I go too far, it's such a narrow road, and I'm driving a dually, I'm not going to be able to back out of here, so I'm not sure what's around the corner there on the, oh, Casey, yeah, it'll be fine. That's fine. I've been down here. So I drive this tight little road that weaves in and out, and it comes out to an opening that has been treed with heavy equipment in it and mud 3 feet deep, the whole field. It's the only way I can turn around is to get, Casey's like, hey, just take it in the field and turn around and put it in four-wheel drive.
Actually, I think you told me to get out of the truck and walk down there and make sure it's okay.
I might have done that because he got me into it. So you're going to walk. So, of course, he comes back. It didn't matter. It's fine. You'll go right through it. I promise you this. They could have filmed a Ford commercial, couldn't they, Casey?
Yes.
That dually, I knew anybody who's ever been around mud, when you go into it, you do not let up. If you let up, you are stuck. If you're moving, keep it going. I think I had 4 roosters coming off the tires, 4-wheel drive, spinning this thing around. He's laughing. He don't care. It's just the funniest thing that's ever happened. And that was Hilliard. That's where and you wonder why I get like I get. You wonder why I send, burn the tires out on 2 Lure Edge truck when I'm pulling it out of the ramp. It's you guys taught me that stuff.
That's right.
You and your brothers. Good times though.
That
for sure.
that was a good weekend for sure.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff can't be talked about, but that was a good time.
Yeah. The next one that comes to mind, Casey, is, I don't know if you remember this or not, but there's a reason today that I do nothing on Friday the 13th. It's not that I'm superstitious. It's just I'm not going to do anything Friday the 13th. You remember what happened on that Friday the 13th?
No.
All right, we're going alligator hunting.
Oh, yes.
We're going to talk hunting this segment. We're going alligator hunting, right? I got my buddy, the best in the world, one of the best. Gerzaffi's great. Gerzaffi's definitely on his game.
Very true.
Back in the day, Mike Gifford was the animal when it came to alligators. And I don't know how I ended up linking up with him, but it was like a match made when I found Gifford, because he's unbelievable with alligators. He's the one that put me on the big one, but he called me up, and this guy from Airboat World, which is a magazine, wanted to come do an article on alligator hunting. So Gifford, me and him were hunting all the time. I think I had the tags where they were in my name, and we got this alligator guy to be an agent, and I figured, shoot, let's get Casey. Casey's alligator hunted with me hundreds of times, or lots of times. So we went out there. I think it was the 12th when we started hunting. So at midnight, it became Friday the 13th.
Yes.
We were running through an area. What lake was that?
Toho.
Lake Toho. The driver of the airboat had been on this lake since he was a kid. He knew every stump. He knew everything. We come around this corner. If you remember, they lowered the water level. And when they lower the water level, the lily pads stay up for a day or two. And then after a day or two, they settle to the top. That's how you know they just released water. They're still in the air. We come around a corner full of lily pads. There's a 3-foot pole sticking out of the water. What was it, 10 or 12 feet from us?
Yeah,
We were running 40.
it was probably an 8-inch fence post.
8-inch fence post, 20 feet in front of us, and we're heading straight at it at 40 miles an hour. I'm sitting in the front, loaded spear gun. I'm ready to shoot an alligator. Casey's in the back with the guy from Airboat World taking pictures, and Gifford's running the boat. Well, Gifford had one choice in this. It was either turn sideways, hit it sideways and we're flipping, or floor it and snap the pole. So we floored it, and it didn't snap the pole. It was a ramp. I've never, it was unbelievable.
Probably one of the most scariest moments of my life.
For sure. Thought we were done. I'm in the front. We hit this pole. It shoots us up in the air. Nosedive. 1,000 gallons of water in the face. Boat shuts off in the middle of the swamp. As we're flying through the lily pads, the jug connected to my loaded spear gun is getting pulled behind me, which is the way everybody on the boat is. So all I really did was concentrate on just holding that rope from pulling it backwards, because I didn't want to shoot somebody, with all that happening. No lights on the boat. And the first thing I remember when we came to a stop was Casey saying, "We lost somebody." We're like, "What?" "We lost somebody. He ain't here no more. He was just sitting next to me." That was incredible. What happened after that?
I remember it to a T. I remember when we hit the pole, I saw his feet. He looked like Superman going in the air. I do remember. I remember Mike saying it was a dual station airboat. So there was a gas pedal on his, And I remember when we got in, he said, keep your foot off that gas pedal that you're sitting on. That was between my feet. So when the guy flew out of the airboat, I went up sideways and I came down on the floor of the boat. Well, I landed on the gas pedal. So when we finally stopped, I could hear the motor revving. And that's when we all settled down, and there's only 3 of us on the boat. Well, we couldn't find the guy.
Yeah.
And we'd already looked at 1,000 alligators, and he's standing over there about chin deep, and he's got his hands up, and you can't see him because of the lily pads. And I remember when we pulled him out, Gifford was pretty calm. I mean, Mike was pretty calm.
Yeah.
And when we got over there to him, I remember when we pulled him in the boat, he pulled a pack of cigarettes out of his shirt pocket that was completely submerged. And they were dry as a bone, and that poor guy was...
Well, I remember pulling up to him as we idled up, because it took a minute to get the boat started. We probably threw him out, 50, 60 feet anyway.
Yes.
And when I went down to pick him up, I think it was me and you, I don't even think he needed help getting in the boat.
No.
I mean, it was like Tharp that time he fell out of the boat. Were you in the boat that time?
No.
He fell out. But same thing, whoop, in the boat. So we're sitting there, and we're going, hey, man, you okay? And he's like, yeah, I'm fine. I just lost my camera.
It's $10,000.
$7,000 or $8,000 camera, but that's okay. I'm not worried about it. I'm back in the boat now. We're like, okay, good. The article he did was called Swimming with the Alligators. You ever want to look that up? It was Airboat World. And, yeah, it was pretty exciting time on Friday the 13th there that definitely it didn't really bother me until I got home.
Yeah.
You know, really, when it happened, I remember pulling the guy in the boat. We got the boat started up, and we're like, hey, what do y'all want to do? And I said, well, if he's okay, let's alligator hunt. I mean, the post is back there. We still got the rest of the night. You know, I mean, what?
I do believe we hit the boat ramp at sun up. I mean, we were...
Yeah. Well, Mike wanted to pull over and build a campfire.
Yeah.
Because he said the guy's cold. He's shaking. I go, it's 85 degrees. I don't think he's cold. I think he's in shock. I said, drive me back to the boat ramp. It was about 6 in the morning.
Right.
And I had all hunting clothes in there. I had enough clothes for everybody to throw something on and be covered and warm. But, man, what an exciting trip that was, huh?
Oh, that was one that I'll never forget for sure.
Yeah, that was Mike Gifford, one of the best around, and enjoyed those hunts with you. I know one time, this was another one I went with. Casey was with me. We were with Bill Miller on Lake Hancock.
Right, and Ernie Rubio.
And if you remember what happened, we were driving by. Now, he may not remember it the same as me. Maybe like some other buddies of mine that think of things differently. But you remember me driving by those lily pads and slowing down and say, I smell one.
Yep, I do.
And that was the one we got. I was driving in the airboat, and if you've ever alligator hunted, when a male alligator is threatened and wants you to get back, like a rattlesnake would rattle, they release a musky smell underneath, and you can smell that. I mean, it's very distinct. I was in a tower running 35 miles an hour and smelled it. And I told him, I slowed down and turned around. I said, there's a big one right here. I just smelled him. I think that was the one we got in probably the first hour. I mean, you look like a hero. Sometimes you're on TV and you don't get nothing. This time we were with Bill Miller, and Captain Bill Miller, great guy, had a cable TV show, and in the first 45 minutes we had a 12-foot, 5-inch, probably 600 pounder in the boat. It was awesome.
Every bit.
Yeah.
It took everything we had to get him out of the boat and into the truck.
Yeah, that was something else. Then we lifted him here with a forklift on the corner of 41 and 60, 15 feet in the air, so we could have some spectators. Remember that?
Yes. You know, speaking of Ernie, who's a great fisherman, seen lots of stuff.
Yeah.
Ernie doesn't get excited very much. Ernie and I both were on the fishing rods because we caught him we snag hooked him.
Yeah.
I think we were an hour into it. And I remember Ernie and I were on the front of the boat, and when he came up the first time when we got to see him, Ernie and I...
It's impressive.
I backed off because when Ernie looked at me and said, this is a monster. And I looked at Ernie and I said, I better slow down here. I mean,
Yeah.
Ernie even had a little bit of a shock there, and Ernie looked at me and he said, this is bigger than what we think he is. And I think we fought that for probably 2.5 hours.
Yeah, it was a good one, man. We, that's one of the things.
Actually, I have his head.
Yeah, you got it mounted.
I got the head mounted, yeah.
Yeah, he's a thick one.
Thick.
That's what really tells you when you're hunting alligators is the width of them. It's not that, you can tell the difference between a 10 and a 12. And believe it or not, a 12 and a 13, there's a big difference. Ernie's been with me on a couple. He was with me on the 13 too. That was a heck of a deal there. And that's coming up right now, guys. I know they've already put the draw in. There's plenty of people out there. If you want to, contact me here. Dave Marquette's a guide. Glenn Gerzaffi's a guide. I know a ton of them. Rick Silkworth. And they're all solid alligator hunters, I'm telling you. Really good people. I've enjoyed you coming up today, Casey, and talking with us about fishing and hunting. It's been a great time and a great 25 years. I mean, there's stories with you that I could go on forever. The pig hunts with Bill Curry and Lat that we've done so much hunting with them and big pigs. It's really been a great time, man. I've really enjoyed it.
I appreciate everything you've done.
Yeah, appreciate everybody tuning in tonight, today, whenever it is, listening to us talking fishing and hunting. We'll see y'all next time.